Indeed, a very big day for all of us in the automotive industry. Ladies and gentlemen, our inaugural session is indeed a star-studded one. We're delighted that today we have with us Mr. Amitabh Kant, Honorable Sherpa of G20. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Dr. Pavan Goenka, Chairman, Indian National Space Promotion Authorization Center in Space. Mr. R. Dinesh, President-designate CII and Executive Vice Chairman, TVS Supply Chain Solutions. Mr. Kenichi Ayukawa, President SIAM and Executive Vice Chairman of Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Mr. Sunjay Kapoor, President ACMA and Chairman Sona Comstar. Ms. Shraddha Suri Marva, Vice President ACMA and Chairperson and Managing Director Subros. And Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General of ACMA. Once again, an extremely warm welcome to all of our dignitaries. And ladies and gentlemen, for this auspicious occasion, may I request our esteemed dignitaries on the dais to commence the program by lighting the ceremonial lamp. Requesting our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Amitabh Kant, and all dignitaries present on the dais to kindly join in the lighting of the ceremonial lamp, which is an integral part of the Indian tradition before new and auspicious beginnings. Thank you, esteemed dignitaries, for the lighting of the ceremonial lamp and the formal inauguration of the 62nd annual session of ACMA. May I request you all to take your respective seats. I'm glad that we have over 1,200 people joining us in person here and another 2,000 logged in through various social media platforms, including the ACMA website and YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, the auto component industry in the last over 6 decades has stood the test of time and today is not only one of the key drivers of Indian economy but also a shining example of Make in India and an Atmanirbhar industry. The year gone by has indeed been a challenging one, yet despite all the adversities, the auto component industry has given its best performance over indeed testimony to its resilience and self-confidence. With the auto industry across the globe and in India redefining itself, we have themed our annual session this year as the future of mobility, transforming to be ahead of the opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, as ACMA continues to grow from strength to strength, we present to you a short film on our achievements in the year that has gone by. Can we play the film, please?
With the global economy gradually recovering from the devastating impact of the pandemic, India, with its fastest growing economy, has emerged as a beacon of hope for the world. On back of of strong economic fundamentals and with the vehicle industry nearing pre-pandemic levels of performance, the auto component industry in India continues to grow from strength to strength and scale newer heights. Known for its frugal engineering, world-class quality and flexibility, the component industry in India is fast emerging as a reliable alternate source of high-quality supplies to the world. Driven by the needs of energy security and concern for the environment, and with electric mobility having caught the imagination of the Government of India and our people, the auto component industry is fast transforming itself to stay relevant and cater to the newer customer requirements. The industry is steadfast in its commitment to support our government in its goal to achieve carbon neutrality by 2070.
The industry continues to innovate and co-create with its customers and other ecosystem players for greener, cleaner, and safer products, technologies, and shop floors to stay ahead of the curve.
Supporting this makeover are the 5 pillars of Automotive Component Manufacturers Association of India, ACMA. Business development, government affair and strategic initiatives, skilling and mentoring, startup and strategic partnerships, image building and media interface, and ACMA's dynamic regional chapters.
The remarkable resilience displayed by the industry and ACMA's strong support has resulted in one of the best ever performances in the auto components industry in the fiscal year 2022. The industry witnessed a healthy growth of 23% with a turnover of $56.5 billion, outpacing its highest ever turnover in 2018-19.
The auto component sales to OEMs in the domestic market stood at $45.8 billion USD, registering a 22% growth. Exports grew by 43% to $19 billion USD, leading to a healthy trade surplus of $700 million USD, another first. The aftermarket, estimated at $10 billion USD, also witnessed a steady growth of 15%. Continuing with its efforts to facilitate business development, as also to create a global footprint for its members, ACMA curated several tech shows and expos. The 6th edition of iAutoConnect 2021, together with the ACMA Technology Partnership Summit and the EV Expo, had over 150 Indian auto component manufacturers displaying their latest products and technologies for international delegates from over 30 countries. Other notable events included the year witnessed heightened interactions with OEMs as the agenda for localization gathered steam. ACMA organized tech shows with Hero Motocorp, Tata Motors, Hyundai Motor India, and Ashok Leyland, among others. Through its consistent engagement with both the central and state governments, ACMA voices the industry's concerns for faster resolution. A slew of policy measures like extension of FAME 2 scheme, PLI on auto and auto components and on ACC batteries, policy initiatives on battery swapping and energy as service, safety and reduction of tailpipe emissions, among others, are creating a new paradigm of technological excellence for the automotive supply chain in India. ACMA continues to work with renowned consultants as its knowledge partners. Several studies and reports were published during the year that include Living with Volatility, Survival, Revival and Growth, ACMA PwC Study, EV Landscape, Opportunities for India's Auto Component Industry, ACMA Yes Bank Study. ACMA also continued to support its members through shop floor upgrading programs. A total of 33 tailor-made programs are being offered that has helped 70 plants achieve manufacturing excellence. The ACMA Sustainable Manufacturing Program and ACMA Program on Environment, Social and Governance Improvement was some of the new initiatives this year. Apart from these, more than 120 skilling, mentoring and training programs were held, including regional and national level quality circle competitions. ACMA successfully organized the 7th ACMA Atmanirbhar Excellence Awards and Technology Summit, recognizing its members for excellence in manufacturing, exports, product innovation, HR, and environmental safety. ACMA continued its efforts to facilitate strategic partnerships in the industry. A new initiative on engagement with startups enabled creation of a close relationship between 16 ACMA member companies and 34 startups. Some of this is expected to result in successful collaboration. Further, the ACMA Leadership Lesson Series continues to inspire and enrich our membership by presenting entrepreneurial lessons across diverse industry verticals. The recent 20-member ACMA CEOs delegation to Midlands, UK was fraught with learnings, as it provided an incisive perspective on innovation, R&D and industry-academia collaboration in UK's automotive industry. To amplify the industry's voice and presence, significant efforts were made to put forth the industry's viewpoints across various media platforms. ACMA continued to remain in the news with many interviews and opinion articles of ACMA leadership published in leading dailies, electronic media and trade magazines. That apart, the ACMA social media handles are one of the most sought after for the latest in the auto component industry. ACMA's future-ready initiatives address the needs of an industry in transition and to create the auto component industry of tomorrow. With a ceaseless schedule of activities, the ACMA Center of Excellence delivered over 50 programs of different genre. Leading national and international experts shared their perspectives on diverse subjects such as new product development, new age manufacturing technologies, e-mobility, telematics, and Industry 4.0 to name a few. Among the many programs that the Young Business Leaders Forum organized, the Fireside Chat with President ACMA was one of the best received. ACMA's Young Business Leaders Forum also mounted a successful delegation to Vietnam to get insights into the automotive manufacturing ecosystem of the country. The dynamic environment of the near future is going to bring tough challenges, and along with it, newer opportunities. ACMA is confident that together, we will overcome the challenges of times and transform ourselves to embark on a journey to a bright future. ACMA, let's transform.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the film on the year gone by and such a remarkable journey indeed. We would like to now begin the formal proceedings of the annual session of ACMA. Ladies and gentlemen, whilst the year gone by was very difficult, President ACMA has led us from the front and indeed very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, President ACMA, and Chairman Sona Comstar to formally deliver his welcome address.
Good afternoon. Mr. Amitabh Kant, Sherpa G20, Dr. Pavan Goenka, Chairman in Space and Chairman Scale Committee, Mr. R. Dinesh, President Designate CII and Executive Vice Chairman TVS Supply Chain Solutions, Ayush Kawasan, President SIAM and Executive Vice Chairman Maruti Suzuki Limited, Shraddha, Vice President ACMA and Chairperson and Managing Director Subros, Vinny, Director General ACMA, captains of the vehicle industry, officials from the government and dignitaries, ACMA past presidents, my colleagues from ACMA Executive Committee and members of ACMA, friends from the press and the media, and ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. It is my profound privilege to welcome you all to the 62nd annual session of ACMA. It is indeed very heartening to see all of you in person here in a full house after a long gap of 2 years. My prayers and thoughts are with those families of those who we have lost to the pandemic. This event is happening in the backdrop of the highest growth in our economy and is a testimony to the right policies and interventions by our government in one of the most trying times. In fact, we are today the world's 5th largest economy, having outperformed that of Great Britain. Indeed, a Mahotsav, as we now are well set in the Amrit Kal to redefine the next 25 years in our countdown to 2047, the 100th year of Indian independence. My congratulations to all my fellow countrymen who we are indeed well begun. However, it is not yet time to rest on our laurels. I commence my address by expressing my sincere gratitude to our customers who have always supported us and guided us well throughout our journey. Your support and guidance during the challenging times of the pandemic was exemplary. It is during the hardest times that we faced when our customers supported us and the industry stood strong. Ayukawa-san, my heartiest congratulations to you on successfully completing your term as president of SIAM. You have undoubtedly led the entire industry well from the front despite the many adversaries and done us proud. And now, as you embark on your new role, I wish you great success in your future endeavors. To CII, for taking ACMA as a partner and working tirelessly for the cause of the industry with the government. We're grateful to CII for giving our industry the due recognition in various CII platforms and committees. Mr. Dinesh, you are an integral part of the automotive industry, value chain, and continue to support us through your logistics business. Your initiatives to digitally reform the aftermarket are truly admirable. Mr. Amitabh Kant, you have been a true friend of the industry. We're thankful to you for envisioning a green and sustainable automotive value chain and encouraging the auto component industry to export. In your former role as CEO, Niti Aayog, you have been a catalyst for a paradigm shift in the mobility industry and a champion of clean energy. And now, as a Sherpa of G20, you're driving India's agenda to internationalization. A special welcome to our good friend and mentor, Dr. Pavan Goenka. We're indeed fortunate to have you as a mentor. Your leadership and support at Scale Committee have been invaluable in driving the auto industry's agenda for deep localization and exports. And we're hopeful that as a chairperson of InSpace, you will continue to help and guide the auto industry to plug into the aerospace industry as we spread our wings wider, no pun intended there. And we eagerly look forward to your address and the message to the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, as I look back on the year gone by, I look at it with great sense of satisfaction and pride. I assumed office of President of ACMA in August 2021 in the midst of an environment of volatility and disrupted supply chain. There were significant challenges in the front of availability and prices of raw materials, availability of semiconductors, and significant challenges on the logistics front. It is indeed very encouraging that the industry displayed remarkable resilience. The component manufacturers and OEMs continued to work closely in the spirit of mutual collaboration and collectively deal with the industry-wide challenges. I'm happy to mention that most of these challenges have moderated to some extent, and vehicle sales, especially in the CV and PV segments, now seem to have reached pre-pandemic levels. The tractor sales also continue unabated, and I'm hopeful that the demand of the two-wheelers will bounce back with the festive season just around the corner. Increased value addition to meet regulatory compliances, fast recovery in external markets, and traction in domestic markets have contributed to the remarkable growth of the auto component sector in FY 21-22. Significant growth was witnessed across all segments, including supply to OEMs, exports, as also the aftermarket. In this backdrop, the component industry witnessed a sale of $56.5 billion, which is a 23% growth, outpacing its highest ever turnover in FY 18-19. Our exports grew to $19 billion, leading to a trade surplus of $700 million, which is a first in its history. So congratulations to all of you. The aftermarket also witnessed a steady growth of 15% and reached $10 billion. And I'm hopeful that with the buoyancy in the market, this growth will continue through 22-23, and we will see another healthy and profitable year. At this juncture, I must also appreciate the support extended by us, to us by the Government of India, especially the Ministry of Heavy Industries, for enhancing the incentives and extending the FAME 2 scheme, for its generous selection of automotive component manufacturers in the PLI scheme for auto and auto components and advanced chemistry battery storage. This will indeed aid in developing India into an attractive alternative source to supply high-end components from India to the world. The world is fast moving towards sustainable development, driven by the need to reduce carbon footprint, as also to meet challenges of the environment and climate change. The situation in our country is not very different. Like most progressive governments, our government has also announced a roadmap of net zero by 2070. Further, with norms mandated for environment, social, and governance, or ESG, as a responsible industry, the automotive and auto component industry, and all other stakeholders across the automotive value chain will need to shoulder their responsibility well by transitioning to zero-emission products, business models that are sustainable, aligned to circular economy, and have minimal adverse impact on the environment. With electric mobility clearly gaining great traction, the government is also propagating several other technologies, such as alternative fuels, biofuels, CNG, LPG, LNG, and hydrogen, among others. All these are adding to a new dimension of the mobility space and its complexity, challenging us to keep up with the dynamics. With the disruption in the mobility space, we have seen several service businesses emerge. In fact, I would say that the number of service businesses in the mobility space are amongst the highest in the startup ecosystem. Going forward, the service mobility business will impact the design and build of the non-service business, and therefore will impact the design and build of vehicles and also how we as consumers consume mobility. And this convergence will create some great new opportunities. Given the rapid transformation in the automotive industry at home and globally, as we strive to piece ourselves together to redefine and explore opportunities of growth, all at the same time, I'm sure there are many questions you are seeking answers to. Questions like, will EVs dominate the mobility landscape in India as they have in other automotive nations? If so, how can we transform ourselves to ensure our business continuity and stay relevant to our customers? With uncertainty in technology, business, and regulatory environment, what are the new opportunities coming our way, and what would be most apt business models for us to follow? Will one size fit all? What strategic interventions do we need to make internal and external, technological and human, as individual and as a community, to become globally competitive? And what role will cybersecurity play in our businesses and our vehicles going forward? To answer these and deliberate on the way forward, we have themed our annual session, The Future of Mobility, Transforming to be Ahead of the Opportunity. I welcome the distinguished leaders from all spheres of the ecosystem who will share their insights today, especially on how to be future ready. Given the dynamism, the focus of the auto component industry in India is now looking inwards to transform itself in line with the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat and become a net exporter. The ACMA-CIAM joint study, initiated 2 years ago, identified an opportunity for localization of components to the tune of 25 to 30,000 crores in the next 5 years. So I'll go a little off script. This morning I read a very interesting statistic. They said when you're public speaking, 7% is what people hear, 54% is how you say it, and the rest is how you look. So if I were to go by the 7% of what you hear, because I know a lot of you have been on your phone and may not have heard all the great statistics, I hope you will remember the great sales turnover we had in the export. But I will say, I will leave you with 3 key themes for this year, which I feel in my mind would be absolutely important for us as an industry. The first, and this is in no order of priority, but the first one I'll talk about is ESG, environment, social, and governance. Is absolutely going to be absolutely important for us to create sustainable businesses, not just our own business, but across the value chain. Very recently, we had a conversation with a large tier 1 supplier out of Europe who clearly stated they will not do business or development for any ICE engine vehicles anymore, and will only look at the supply chain that is highly sustainable. When you look at social, the human aspect, today, employees, when they go in for a job, they ask the company what their sustainability roadmap is. Governance, compliance, I don't need to talk about this. The other theme is cybersecurity. Given the fact that cars are becoming more connected and introducing more software into vehicles, as well as our workplace having transformed digitally so quickly, cybersecurity is going to be a key theme that's going to drive industry. And finally, electrification. Where is the industry headed? And how do we play an active role in the success of this revolution? So ESG, cybersecurity, electrification. If you remember these 3 things, I've done my job for the day. While times have been difficult in this critical phase of our journey, I'll go back to script, of ACMA that calls for integrating all stakeholders, including those who are not part of the traditional ecosystem, and pave the road for members to compete and grow in an environment that is rapidly witnessing change. To this, I mean that the landscape, the competitive landscape is changing. At ACMA, we onboarded 2 non-automotive companies onto our executive committee just to showcase the fact that our industry is changing so rapidly. Ladies and gentlemen, it has truly been a year of resilience and growth, and I thank all my peers who have given me the courage and strength to continue on this journey and to make ACMA a more responsible, stronger, and well-engaged association. I'm confident that we will continue on the path of sustained growth despite the challenges. As I close, I sincerely acknowledge the support of the government at the center and states who have been extremely receptive to ACMA's suggestions and inputs. I would also like to thank our members for their unwavering support. I'd like to thank Shraddha, our Vice President, my colleagues on the Executive Committee who have stood by me, particularly all my past presidents who have guided me in the right direction and given me the right direction. I also applaud the efforts and the support provided by the ACMA Secretariat, without which I could not have delivered my agenda or my speech during my tenure. We are clearly headed in a very different new world, a world in which there will be numerous challenges, and with these challenges will emerge numerous opportunities. The automotive industry is fast transforming into what I like to call the mobility industry. We're excited about the kind of research and development and engineering and products, processes, materials and services that are taking place. We're conscious of the fact that we need to be responsible to work with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that we move towards building a safer, cleaner, sustainable, and more technologically advanced mobility automotive ecosystem. I'm confident that as an industry, we will not only overcome the current challenges facing us, but we will continue to create a new paradigm in technological excellence, sustainability, and global competitiveness. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor, for your extremely warm address. You shared with us the challenging and difficult year that has gone by, and at the same time, the inspiring way in which the industry has moved forward. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Kenichi Ayukawa, President SIAM and Executive Vice Chairman, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Ayukawa-san, as the President of SIAM, has redoubled the collective efforts of the vehicle industry to ensure a robust suppliers ecosystem, indeed a challenging task in these challenging environment. The entire ACMA fraternity applauds him for his leadership and statesmanship. May I now invite Ayukawa-san, requesting him to kindly address us.
Mr. Amitabh Kant, Honorable Sherpa G20, Dr. Pavan Goenka, Chairman in Space and Chairman Scale Committee, Mr. R. Dinesh, President Designate, CII and Executive Vice Chairman, TVS Supply Chain Solution. Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, President ACMA and Chairman Sona Comsters. Ms. Shada Suri Moha, Vice President ACMA and Chairperson and MD Subros. Senior government officials, auto component industry leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, namaskar. Thank you for inviting me on behalf of SIAM to the 62nd Annual Conference of Indian Auto Component Industry. I'm happy to see you all in person today after a long gap of 3 years. It is an honor and pleasure to have Mr. Amitabh Kant with us in this session. Sir, you have always been a strong pillar of support for the auto sector, especially for the component industry and MSMEs. Now that you have taken over a very crucial role of G20 Sherpa, just ahead of India's presidency, please accept our best wishes for this important project. Sir, we look forward to listening to you far-sighted view and valuable thought for the industry today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate entire auto component industry for highest ever turnover in financial year 2021-22. I'm also grateful to ACMA for their strong support and collaboration with SIAM in these last 2 years. SIAM and ACMA have together drafted a first ever comprehensive localization roadmap for the industry. SIAM and ACMA have also worked in close coordination for industry's significant contribution to the country during the pandemic. Be it scaling up the production capacity of PSA oxygen generation plant manufacturers, or facilitating production of ventilators, or taking up the production of face masks and PPE kits. I'm also happy to see that SIAM and ACMA continue to work closely on many regulation and policy issues. I hope to see such healthy collaboration between SIAM and ACMA in future as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Let me take this opportunity to share a brief about the auto industry. Indian automobile industry is key driver of economic growth in the country. With around 120 billion US dollars in turnover, our industry contributes about 6% to Indian GDP and 35% the manufacturing output. Our industry generates employment for more than 3 crore people and contribute to GST around 1.5 lakh crore rupee. Currently, automobile industry is going through a unique phase. Some segments have started to see recovery after the pandemic, while some other segments are still struggling. For example, mass segments like entry-level cars and two-wheelers are facing huge reduction in demand owing to significant increase in the acquisition cost. For some other segments which are seeing good demand, there are supply-side challenges, mainly being the semiconductor shortage. Overall, due to these challenges, all segments, be it passenger vehicle, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, or commercial vehicles, are still below the industry's peak of 2018-19. Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on the journey of Amrit Kaal for the next 25 years, SIAM and ACMA should collaborate and put significant effort to bring back and sustain the growth of the industry. Aligned with the nationwide object of oil import reduction and energy security, industry is also working hard to develop multiple clean energy alternatives. These including battery electric and ethanol, flex fuel, CNG, biogas, hybrid electric, and hydrogen. I'm thankful to the government for launching the PLI scheme for automobile and auto component industry for advanced chemistry cell and also a special scheme for electronic components. I'm hopeful that the component industry will take advantage of this scheme. I also hope that technology players will be encouraged to commit resources and invest in India for manufacturing advanced technology components. At this juncture, I have some specific requests for the auto component industry. To ensure a long-term sustainable growth, industry should focus on 1. Increasing localization. We have to go much deeper and find ways to localize smallest of the components, including raw material, wherever possible. 2. Improving and sustaining higher level of quality. Indian auto industry has gained a large scale both in the domestic market and export. At this big scale, quality holds a very high significance. Any small mistake can be harmful not only for the industry, but also for the brand making India. 3. Investing in new futuristic technology. Honorable Prime Minister has committed a target of net zero carbon emission by 2070 and 45% reduction by 2030. in our journey of decarbonization to achieve these targets. Industry should put effort and invest in all feasible futuristic technology. 4, investing in R&D. I would encourage significant investment in the area of research and development, contributing toward making India an R&D hub for the world. And 5, it is very important, reinvesting in the core business. I already tell my supplier partner at Maruti Suzuki that reinvesting in the core business is very important. It not only strengthens your financial, but also improves your ability to deal with challenges. With this, I would like to conclude my thought. Tomorrow, I will complete my 2-year term as Siam President. I'm thankful to ACMA for their support to Siam during my tenure and hope to see continuous positive and healthy partnership in future as well. As I close, I look forward to see you all at the Siam Annual Convention tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayukawa-san, and for sharing with us a brief insight into the automotive industry. Ladies and gentlemen, before calling upon our chief guest for his kind address, we have the pleasant task of presenting the Quality Circle Competition Award for 2022. A recognition towards the efforts of the industry shop floor associates towards problem solving, thereby enhancing quality, improving productivity, and reducing costs and waste. The association, through its regions North, South, East, and West, organizes each year the coveted Quality Circle or the QC competition. This year, a total of 265 teams participated in the QC competition, of which 12 emerged as the finalists of the national competition, which was held on the 19th of August 2022 at the ACMA Center of Excellence in Sonipat. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the winner. Team Rane winners of Rane Brake Lining Limited emerged as the winner of the 17th National Quality Circle competition. May I request Mr. Amitabh Kant and our respected dignitaries to please come forward to present the award. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Many congratulations. Thank you, dignitaries and Team Rane winners. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now release the ACMA McKinsey study on the future of mobility transforming to be ahead of these opportunities, which is also the theme of our event. The study brings to fore how e-mobility is disrupting the automotive value chain as it gets rapidly adopted across all segments of the vehicle categories around the globe and in India. What could be possible new opportunities for the Indian auto component industry from the discontinuities due to such a transformation, and how the industry can harness these opportunities. Suggestions for anchor actions required from government, industry bodies, and individual companies to turn adversities into opportunities. We are joined by Mr. Shivanshu Gupta and Mr. Shrikant Inampuri, both senior partners at McKinsey & Company, who joined us on stage, and our honorable chief guests and dignitaries have helped release this important study. Ladies and gentlemen, you can download the entire report by McKinsey & Company and the compendium of other valuable knowledge papers contributed by eminent consultants Chrysil, EY, NIRAC, Frost & Sullivan, and Grant Thornton from the ACMA website, acma.in. And you can also scan the QR code provided in the delegate kit for your personal copy of these reports. Thank you, distinguished dignitaries. Ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest needs no introduction. We are indeed very pleased to have with us Mr. Amitabh Kant, a stalwart with many notable achievements and feats. Immensely passionate about transforming India and well known for his hugely popular campaign, God's Own Country, Incredible India, Startup India, Ease of Doing Business, and Make in India, a man to go in times of crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to invite Mr. Amitabh Kant, requesting him to deliver his inaugural address.
Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, ACMA President, Mr. Kenichi Ayukawa, President Siam, Mr. Dinesh, Mr. Pavan Goenka, Mr. Vinny Amitabh, Shraddha Suri, all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly delighted to be here at this annual function of ACMA, and I'm really delighted to learn that you've had a record turnover during the previous year. But let me assure you that this is just the beginning of the story, and that you will continue to grow at rapid rates year after year for many years to come. This is going to be simply because India is the fastest growing large economy in the world at present. But the Prime Minister, when he talks about Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, he's talking about transforming India in one generation. That is growing rapidly and accelerating the pace of growth at rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year, for 3 decades or more, and transforming India much like what Japan did in 50s, or much later Korea did in 70s, or Singapore did in 80s, or what China did in recent times. So if you accelerate the pace of growth to that level, you are actually aiming to be close to a $30 trillion economy by the time you turn 100 in 2047. And this cannot be done without the automotive component industry, which has been a very key driver of India's growth story. So this will be totally critical that the automobile sector and the automotive component industry grows and prospers at a very rapid pace. Secondly, it'll grow at rapid pace because India's urbanization process has just begun. And the process of urbanization has ended across the United States of America, it's ended across Japan, it's ended across Europe. In India, it's just begun. And in the next 5 decades, you'll see over 500 million Indians getting into the process of urbanization. That is, the challenge for India is really to create 2 Americas in the next 5 decades. 2 Americas in the next 5 decades, and create actually a Chicago in a very sustainable manner every 2 years. A new Chicago every 2 years. That's the challenge. Now, the advantage for India is that unlike America, which has 980 cars per 1,000 people, and Europe, which has 800 cars per 1,000 people, India has only 20 cars per 1,000 people. So you have the ability to technologically leapfrog, which America and Europe tries to do. The level of destruction will be enormous, whereas in India, from 20 cars per 1,000 people, your ability to technologically leapfrog is enormous. And my view is that a green mobility revolution is really knocking on our doors, whether we like it or not, and India's focus has to be on shared, connected, and an electric transportation movement. Now, transition to electric mobility is gaining ground simply because the cost of battery, which is a very major component, about 40 to 45% of the cost of vehicle, is falling rapidly. It's seen a decline of over 100% in the last 5 to 6 years. And it's going to come down to below $100 per kilowatt hour. And when it happens, the cost, not the total cost of ownership is even lower even now, but the initial cost of ownership without any FAME subsidy will make it cheaper than the combustion vehicle. And therefore, what will happen is that the huge amount of innovation that is taking place in the battery space, there's a huge amount of innovation taking place not merely in the lithium-ion battery sector. There is a huge amount of demand taking place for safer, lasting longer, more energy-efficient batteries. And, there are a huge number of companies working in this space right now. Internationally, if you look at it, there's a huge amount of innovation taking place in sodium-ion batteries, redox flow batteries, nanowire batteries, metal air. One of our Indian companies, Log9, one company based in Pune, KPIT, all of them are doing a huge amount of innovation. And there's also a movement towards new generation, solid states, lithium metal, a whole range of new technologies which are taking place. And so from Volkswagen to Mercedes-Benz to a whole range of companies which are switching over to there's a company called QuantumScape owned by Sadaji Indian, which is doing solid-state batteries in a very big way. You have, Reliance, which has just bought over this company called Faradion in UK, which is doing a huge amount of work in sodium-ion. You have Finergy from Israel, which is collaborating with Indian Oil here for metal air. And you have Log9. Log9 is doing aluminum fuel cells. It's a startup company which is now being supported by Sequoia. So what you're seeing is a huge amount of disruption across the world. I mean, you look at China, 40% of the global market by one company, CATL China. What are they aiming at? Kirin batteries, million mile over a 16-year lifespan from one battery. Now, this is the extent of disruption that will take place. So you will see safer, non-flammable, solid electrolytes, more dense energy-wise, faster charging, greater range, longer shelf-life. All this you will see in the coming 1 to 2 years. Huge amount of disruption in the battery sector. So my belief is that whether you like it or not, and all of you, disruption is just around the corner in a very big way. There's an electric revolution which will take place, which will make electric vehicles more affordable, more accessible, more inclusive, and citizens will take to them whether you like it or not, and the export markets will all be electric. And the focus will not merely be on electric vehicles, but also on moving people towards public transportation, because urbanization in America, while it was driven by vehicles, urbanization in other parts of the world will be driven by public transportation. And how do you make public transportation go electric, which Indian Railways is doing now, that by 2030, Indian Railways will become totally electric. And what we are trying to do in buses, because that is going to be a huge market, and I'll talk about that. That is going to be massive. But to my mind, I'm a believer that India's electrification journey is to be about two-wheelers and three-wheelers. It has to be about two-wheelers and three-wheelers because 80% of the total sales of vehicles is really about two-wheelers and three-wheelers in India right now. And we need to target in the next 4 years, to my mind, India needs to target 100% electrification of these two segments. Go 100% electric on two-wheelers and three-wheelers, get the size and scale of two-wheelers, three-wheelers, vehicle manufacturing, and their entire value chain of components, so that India emerges as a global champion of electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers. That we become, if you are a center of two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and combustion vehicle manufacturing, don't lose that champion position simply because disruption is happening. Become the champion of the new technology and penetrate global markets with new technology. That is going to be the future, and this is very critical to my mind, that Indian companies must become the champions of two-wheelers and three-wheelers. The second key component to my mind is a very robust public transportation, which will have to be the key of good urbanization, whether we like it or not. In India, you have over about 400,000 public transportation buses which are in a ramshackle manner, 400,000 buses. Now, we had recently done, Niti Aayog has driven two major things. One was this PLI schemes for automobile auto components and the PLI for advanced chemistry cell battery. And we've conceptualized the scheme of 14 PLI schemes, but these two were specifically to drive transformation in the electric and battery sector. But one other key thing that we drove was a tender for 5,450 electric buses. This was a tender for 6 cities. We did over 150 meetings with 9 cities. And finally, we were able to convince 6 cities to pool because they had different standards, different flooring, all kind of differentiation. But we managed to convince 6 commissioners and mayors to pool their buses, and 5,450 buses tender we put out. And the rates of, they are all on OPEX basis. And what it demonstrated is that when you are able to pool together and do a tender, you will get prices which are cheaper than diesel prices. And therefore, my view is that there'll be a radical shift towards, in metros and states, towards electric buses, because the next lot of tender that we are planning to put out we are working towards is to put out 50,000 buses, pool 50,000 buses and put out a tender on an OPEX basis. So there's huge opportunity if 400,000 buses is required in India in these by different metros. If we can pool them together, and there's a huge opportunity existing to electrify these. And as we shift, the model is going to shift from owning and operating buses to regulating buses over a 12-year fixed fee contract. And the challenge will be to find ways to finance these contracts and reduce the credit risk of the state transport undertakings. And this will really be the key story of the future, that how do you really bring in pooling, which we've done in LED very successfully. We've done this in vaccination very successfully. So many of these things will be happening. And the government has taken a series of measures. The GST for electric buses is 5% as compared to 28% for ICE vehicles. It's 48% for hybrid, but for electric, we've kept it at 5%. Income tax deduction of over 1.5 lakhs on loans taken for purchase of electric vehicles. We worked with all state governments. Niti Aayog worked with all state governments, and today 26 states and union territories have their policies on electric vehicles, and we've seen a huge range of young entrepreneurs, from Ather, Ola, Talk, Okinawa, Revolt, Enflux. They disrupted the market, whether you like it or not. And if you don't want to, if you're not going to change, the world is not going to wait for you. Let me tell you, young entrepreneurs, startups will disrupt the market, and everyone else will have to follow. And therefore, everyone else has followed. Let me be clear. Bajaj, Hero, TVS, everybody has followed, and the market for electrics will explode in the days to come, whether you like it or not. And therefore, my view is that India must emerge as the leader. That will happen if all of you take the lead, and all of you, because this disruption is taking place all over the world. I mean, look at one company, Tesla. Where was Toyota when Tesla came in? Tesla's valuation today is more than the valuation of 12 other top companies of the world. One EV company valuation more than 12 other companies of the world. And therefore, the writing is absolutely clear on the wall, and India must accelerate the pace and become a leader in this. So my view is that there are some challenges, and those challenges relate to, firstly, I think there is a very high interest rate, and we need to bring down lower interest rates for electric vehicles. There is a very high collateral and insurance charges which need to be brought down. We've discussed this with World Bank, which is willing to provide multilateral financial support to establish first loss guarantees, because the resale price of an electric vehicle is very low, and therefore we need to build that market up, and World Bank said that they will provide multilateral financing institutions. They are working with a series of banks which we are working towards. Now, in Niti Aayog, we'd also done this study of mobilizing electric vehicle financing in India over the next decade, and the cumulative capital investment of about 20 lakh crore would be required for charging infra and batteries, and that is something which is critical, and World Bank was also looking at how to provide that kind of a financing. But there is to my mind, there's a key challenge, and that challenge is of relying on imported components and parts. The FAME scheme, we had built into it that 50% should be localized, so that we radically shift towards local component manufacturing and resolve for making in India. And therefore, the entire value chain needs to be built in India so as to reduce cost. This is very, very critical to my mind, and all the component manufacturers must take the lead to build the entire value chain. There's also a challenge of relying on imported batteries, which account for 40% of the total purchase cost of battery today, and that's why we came up with the production-linked incentive scheme for battery, and I was really amazed. Everybody said that we wanted 50 gigawatt worth of battery manufacturing to be set up. The bids came for 130 gigawatts. 130 gigawatts, unbelievable. And we had a number of international companies, we had a number of domestic companies, and in addition to PLI, we have a number of other companies like Suzuki, which did not participate, Maruti did not participate, but they're putting up their electric mobility. So my view is that, electric battery manufacturing and the PLI for automobile and auto component, which also shifts you towards new technology, will be a game changer. And as India's battery manufacturing capability expands and supply chains are established, India will actually be producing battery cells and packs in India. And when you do battery cells and packs in India, you are actually doing 82% of the value addition. A raw material of lithium, cathode, and etc. just account for 18%. I don't think we need to worry about that. Let's crack the 82% value addition for battery cells and packs, and if we can do that, you can capture 80%, close to 80% of the total economic opportunity in this world. So this is, to my mind, a key thing that we've pushed for production-linked incentive battery manufacturing. You're going to see close to about 100 gigawatt of battery cells and packs being manufactured in India. You're going to see a huge shift from PLI towards new auto components and new automobiles for PLI support. You have already provided lower rates of taxes. You're providing to the consumer 1.5 lakhs worth of support and buying. So government has pushed the limits of policy as far as electric vehicles are concerned. We've also pushed the limits as far as biofuels are concerned, and ethanol, which used to be just 1 or 2%, has moved up to 10%. Record in very short while of 1 year will go up to 20% in the coming years. And I think it's important to realize that when I talk about shared, connected, and electric mobility revolution, it's important to understand that India has actually got the best IT industry. And there is a need for a very close convergence with the coming of the IT, information technology industry with the e-mobility, with all the automobile components, because the coming e-mobility revolution would actually be driven by, will be powered by electronics, artificial intelligence, and automation. These will be the key. Really the key to the growth. And all this, power electronics, artificial intelligence, and automation, IT will have to play a major role. So electric vehicles will have a higher level of value addition of electronics and IT components. And therefore, auto component manufacturers need to work with IT companies in a very big way. So the world's finest IT sector of India can be a very, very dynamic and a very vibrant incubator of innovation and R&D for this new electric mobility revolution of tomorrow. And, my belief is that the auto component industry's big revolution, the big growth story, the story of its growth of about 10 to 15% or 20% growth year after year for the next 3 to 4 decades in India has just begun. It's just begun because of urbanization, because people will buy more vehicles, people will buy more two-wheelers, three-wheelers. But it's not just about the domestic consumption market. It's about becoming a global champion and penetrating global markets. Nobody else has top-class entrepreneurship. Nobody else has the spirit of excellence. Nobody else has the dynamism and the spirit of innovation other than the automobile component manufacturers of India. I mean, you've demonstrated this again and again and again and again, that actually one sector which has excelled in India, one sector which is truly the pride of India, is the automotive component sector of India. And therefore, all of us in government really look forward to your decades and decades of growth and really taking India into the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and the Azadi Kal Ka Amrit Mahotsav as the Prime Minister's envisaged. So I wish you all luck and all success in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Kant, for your extremely notable inaugural address. Indeed, India must lead from the front to become a world leader. Thank you so much for your time and presence. And Mr. Amitabh Kant will be leaving the annual session for his other important commitments. But before that, may I request Mr. Sanjay Kapoor to kindly present the memento to him as a token of our appreciation. Let's have a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with the program. Ladies and gentlemen, the Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII, continues to play an exemplary role in championing the cause of the Indian industry to ensure a conducive manufacturing and investment climate in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. R. Dinesh, President-Designate CII and Executive Vice Chairman of TVS Supply Chain Solutions, to share his perspective on how the auto components industry can take head-on the challenges of disruptions and yet stay relevant. Over to you.
Aika Vasan, Pavan Goenka, Sanjay Kapoor, Shraddha Shuri, Vinny, and friends from ACMA, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of CII, it gives me great pleasure to join the annual event of ACMA. And I would like to add my congratulations to a wonderful year, a great performance, and considering from where we have come from, I think again, I would like to applaud the effort of all ACMA members to make this happen. But I think still the opportunity is so huge, and I would actually specifically like to address only two specific points. But before that, I thought, since Sanjay mentioned in his opening remarks that last year there was this big issue of the logistics cost, I'm sure all ACMA members will be very happy to hear that in September, the shipping rates to most, I would say, component exporting countries have dropped by more than 50%. So here is your opportunity to actually use that to further increase your exports and see how we can grow the opportunity further. But as I said, I think there is obviously very clearly the shift to mobility happening. And the question before all of us is that shift a question of electric, or is it a question of any other technologies coming in to make that mobility happen? Therefore, looking at it from the component industry, I think the challenge before us is, are we actually going to change dramatically, or are we going to do something maybe very different? And the two suggestions I just want to leave with ACMA and its members are relevant to that. First is the question of what I would call our share in the market. And from whatever I have seen, and I also looked at the McKinsey report, I think we are speaking about less than 4.6% or 5%, so a single-digit share of the total component sector. So the question before us is, irrespective of what happens to the changes in mobility, is there a way by which we can actually build global scale, both from a manufacturing perspective and also from the supply chain perspective, meaning being part of the global supply chain, considering the pace and speed with which especially the global companies are looking at moving away from what they think are the past industries. If I looked at the total sector, maybe about 25 to 30% of the market is available for us to work with and actually take the lead in. And considering the percentage we have today, I think you will still see significant headroom available for us to be able to grow. We know that there have been significant success stories within the component manufacturers who have actually grown global, but I think this has to become the norm rather than the exception. But the real challenge is, how do we make this more uniform? How do we make it accessible to the smallest member of ACMA and the industry which really want to be able to make this? So the one specific suggestion on this matter would be to look at actually working, and CII would be happy to partner with ACMA in that, of trying to create a pool of sovereign capital, like the NIIF, which can actually go and look at acquiring global capacities and bring them into India. There would be a sovereign risk attached to it. There would be a fund created with that. Obviously, private capital can come into that. But if you look at the NIIF as an example, it's a commercial fund, but backed by the sovereign guarantee of the government. That actually will help us scale significantly. There, we could have a consortium of the automotive component manufacturers coming on board, joining together, taking over a portion of the supply chain, meaning manufacturing it locally, and or, so to say, outsourcing it to the MSMEs so that they can also be funded and they are not left behind in their growth opportunity. This obviously is a step which cannot happen with the government, without the government support. Therefore, we will need to go to them with a specific action plan. The PLI actually has opened doors for private sector investment to happen. The sovereign fund will actually help us scale that globally, and I would say take a large amount of the risk out of the capital which private sector will have to invest. And therefore, that's an opportunity which I would like to leave with. And again, this also supports the MSME as a sector. The second suggestion is something which is, I think again Sanjay mentioned that aftermarket is something which is dear to my heart. I know that global size as per various studies is close to 300 billion. But if I further dice it and look at it from purely the component manufacturers who are present in ACMA and their share, I think we are still speaking about close to $100 billion of opportunity. I think today we are less than 2 to 3% of that share. The challenge there is, how do we build the range? How do we build the product which actually can be used? Because it's not, there is enough scope available, excluding the safety critical components, to be able to play in the aftermarket sector. But the investment has to be made in terms of building the range. The second problem is, how do we build the brand? It doesn't necessarily mean that component manufacturers need to build their brand, which is what global companies have done. But as an Indian component manufacturer, the solution would be to either acquire a distribution chain or have the access to the brand being created in such a manner that it allows us to grow. Here also, if you look at the current, say, the 19 billion exports, I think we are speaking about a potential to double that in less than 3 years. And that's what, again, the question will be investment, but I don't see a big problem there because you have a ready-made market with a higher margin available to be able to access. But this has to be a concerted effort by ACMA, and again, both on my personal behalf and on behalf of CII, happy to work as to how we can create this as a platform which we can use further. In fact, Sanjay, I think you were there in Chennai when we spoke about launching an aftermarket e-commerce platform. But these are all very minuscule steps of, I would say, exposing the Indian aftermarket, the auto component industry to the global aftermarket support. Therefore, I feel if you really want to be able to build global scale and acquire the technologies, now is the time. When people really want to exit from so-called left-behind sectors, which are, in my mind, still sunrise sectors for us. So we should be able to access that and go. And the final point I would mention is, I don't think India has the capacity, while we understand the changes in mobility coming in and our play from the potential investments which we will need to make, can we sustain two things? One, the capex, and also the losses which we have to fund to be able to grow. So I would actually advocate that we go with the counterintuitive approach of selecting the sector where we can generate cash and use that cash to come back into the, so to say, new technologies which we are speaking of. Of course, there will be companies which can afford to do that, but as an overall sector, especially through ACMA and through CII, I think we have a unique opportunity to scale this up, and my target would be, or my approach would be, to say, can we be 10 times higher in 5 years? That, I think, would be something which will see a genuine sunrise for all of us to not just be global scale, but make truly Atmanirbhar Bharat happen and be successful along with that. I wish ACMA all success, not only for this event, but also for the future ahead. Happy to partner and work with from the CII side, and look forward to seeing you soon with even more success stories which we can celebrate and which we can talk about as future opportunities. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh, for your noteworthy address and for your extremely valuable suggestions. Immensely passionate about creating a world-class automotive value chain in the country, Dr. Goenka is a friend, philosopher, and guide to the Indian auto component industry. With over 4 decades of rich leadership experience in the automotive industry, Dr. Goenka continues to drive transformation in not just automotive industry, but in several others through the Scale Committee of the Ministry of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my proud privilege to invite Dr. Pavan Goenka, Chairman in Space, as also Chairman Scale and former MD of Mahindra & Mahindra, our keynote speaker, requesting him for his keynote address.
Ayoka-san, Dinesh, Sanjay, Shraddha, Vinny, and friends. I'm delighted to be here with you. The hall full of people. After 3 years, we are back in our favorite place, the Taj Palace. And it's good to see that nobody has aged in 3 years, looks like. In fact, people have become younger. So it's a great, great event, occasion to be back together again. But Sanjay, when you gave me the Lifetime Achievement Award 6 months ago, I thought that was also goodbye and also my last speech at ACMA. But you surprised me by inviting me again to talk here today. So thank you very much for that. I want to repeat one sentence that I had given in my speech for Lifetime Achievement Award. What I consider my biggest lifetime achievement is the strong bond, friendship, love, and respect that I have received from people that I have worked with. And you know that I mean it when I say that ACMA members are on the top of that list. Thank you very much. But before I look ahead, I have to look in the rearview mirror a little bit, because I am past, you are future. And marvel at how much the Indian auto industry has evolved in the last 25 years. From being a budding industry in early 90s to be amongst top 5 globally is a remarkable achievement. And as I've said on numerous occasions, I'll repeat that the supply community, the ACMA members, had a big role to play in that. We had a late start in making our vehicles clean and safe, but now we are amongst the best in the world. Our consumers don't have to contend anymore with previous generation technology. All the players, OEMs, suppliers from all over the world are bringing the latest technology and platforms into India. We had a late start in electric vehicles, but I'm sure that just like safety and emission, I'm sure we will catch up and leap ahead. On a personal front, I had a memorable run in the auto industry, both in the USA and India. I fondly recall my conversations, meetings that I used to have with Shraddha's father and Sanjay's father when we were doing the original Scorpio. And now, after 20 years with Shraddha and Sanjay, when we were doing the Thar, the XUV400, 700, and Scorpio N in the initial phases of development. And in fact, there are many people here where I have worked with the fathers, and now sons are taking it forward. And very happy to see that the sons and daughters are maintaining the legacy of their father, but taking it further and creating their own legacy. The two of the products, XUV 700 and Scorpio N, were launched after my retirement, but I cannot help but be proud of what Mahindra Group has achieved in terms of having 3 blockbuster products launched in a span of 2 years. 1 lakh booking in a span of 30 minutes is something that is unheard of. I also miss the deep dive supplier meetings that Velu used to organize whenever I went to MRV for the PD reviews. What I would like to say, though this is not the right forum for it, but this is my only opportunity, is to compliment the Mahindra team for perfect execution and perfect launch of these products. And thank you all, a big thank you, for putting your heart and soul into making these products the best ever Mahindra products. I'm keenly looking forward to the response to the XUV400. Now let us look ahead. 4 years ago, in a talk in the same forum, I talked about 7 things. I'll just repeat. IC engines are not dead. EVs are here to stay. Regulatory environment will get more aggressive. Lightweighting will become a much higher priority. Profit pool will shift. Protection will grow. Technology will be the name of the game. I dare say that all of these points are as relevant today as they were 4 years ago. A couple of more points may have been added, like hydrogen-driven engines or vehicles and impact of PLI scheme. The biggest transformation that is happening is obviously electric vehicles. And I'm sure that all speakers will talk about it during the day. In fact, Amitabh has covered almost everything about electric vehicles, and McKinsey report also will go into it later after lunch. So I won't spend too much time on electric vehicles. Just to say that electric vehicles is the biggest opportunity for some, and perhaps biggest threat for others. You need to make sure that you are on the right side of the dividing lines. Leaders of today may fall behind, and new leaders may emerge in electric vehicle field, as you are already beginning to see the signs of that happening. On a lighter vein, from about 2015, I'd been saying in every forum that electric vehicles have arrived, electric vehicles are about to take off. I had lost complete credibility. For 6 years, electric vehicles kept arriving. So much so that media stopped covering anything that I said about electric vehicles. And I guess the electric vehicle god was waiting for me to retire before the electric vehicles took off, but I'm glad that they're taking off now. Today, there is no doubt about it. I don't think anyone in this room will doubt that electric vehicles are here to arrive, are here to stay. Today, Tatas are leading in 4-wheelers, Mahindras in 3-wheelers, Tata, Leyland, BYD are strong in commercial vehicles, and multiple emerging players in 2-wheeler, as Amitabh also talked about. But none of these companies can afford to take a breather. because many more are around the corner in each segment and will be coming in very aggressively. And I do want to add that everyone needs to watch what happens to the hydrogen fuel, because that may be another sort of new frontier and that will open in India. So Sanjay talked about excellent growth of the ACMA members in the last year, very impressive from any measure. Whether you look at the last 2 years or look at last 20 years, we have done very well in the component industry. But obviously, dil mange more. And as Amitabh said, 20% growth for 3 to 4 decades. I cannot even calculate what that size would be if you grew 20% for 3 to 4 decades. But anyways, that's what we need to look forward to. So what are the opportunities that we have, other than electric vehicles and hydrogen, that we talked about and will talk about more in the new age of mobility? Ayukawa-san talked about 5 things. I also have 5 things. In fact, most of these things have been kind of covered by some of the other in the previous talks. So 5 things that I want to talk about are no rocket science. Localization, export, IC engines, that may surprise you, advanced technology, and startup innovation. I would hasten to say that all the low-hanging fruits have been taken care of, are gone. Now you will have to work harder to stay relevant and grow. So let me start off with localization. Today, Indian auto industry is importing more than $20 billion worth of component and subsystems. For an industry that is as Atmanirbhar as auto industry is, that simply is not acceptable. ACMA, working with SIAM and the SAIL committee, has done a lot of groundwork. Some import will happen, should happen, no doubt about it. But I think there's a lot of opportunity that we have. There's a lot of opportunity that we have in terms of reducing import and doing local value addition without compromising on technology, quality. What is special treatment for me? Very nice. Okay. All right. Oh. Does it look like I have a dry throat? Okay, I'll read. Big focus has to be on electronics, and Government of India also is focusing on that. There are many PLI schemes that will help in localizing electronics. I would also like to add that often for OEMs, it is an easier route to import. If you really want to get into local value addition, the OEMs will have to work hard with the suppliers to make it happen and put some serious effort into this. But sometimes it ain't easy. Let me give you one example. Permanent magnet motors. With the electric vehicles coming in, that's going to become core. Today, these motors are fully imported, except maybe some CKD assembly. But I think most people didn't know, I didn't know, that India has 5th largest reserve of rare earth material that goes into making permanent magnets. Yet, we do not make a single permanent magnet. But it will have to be done with close cooperation between multiple players. First, IREL, that owns the raw material, will have to work with the processors. The startups that want to process RE oxide to permanent magnet will have to come in. Companies that will design and manufacture motors using Indian permanent magnet have to work on it. And the OEMs will have to applicate Indian motors into their products. So a lot of steps have to happen if we have to succeed in making permanent magnet motors in India. A lot of effort on various fronts, but if we succeed, there's a potential of $3 to $5 billion industry of permanent magnet motors, just for the automotive industry, leave alone many other industries that we have. The second area is export. The big opportunity for suppliers in India, of course, is export, because import only you can do so much reduction. It is the export that will have to grow. 1.5% share in global component export, I would say, is pitiful. Why should India not be at least 5%, that Korea is? What are we lacking? In my view, there are 3 or 4 things that perhaps need to be focused on a little more. Creating scale, investing in capacity ahead of demand, getting our logistic cost right. Dinesh talked about how things have improved in the last few months, but I think we still have some ways to go. Absolute consistency in quality, large-scale adaptation of Industry 4.0, and of course, owning technology. And I'll get into that a little more. Again, PLI schemes are here to help the industry for the next 5 years. I'd asked this question 2 years ago, before the PLI schemes were announced. What will it take to make the buyers from large multinational OEMs to make a beeline to India to buy components from here? What will it take for the multinational suppliers like Bosch, Continental, Magna, Aisin to integrate India into their GVC? I don't think that we still have that answer clearly. The third thing that I want to talk about is IC engines. Now, my guess is that IC engine vehicles in India will continue to grow, though at a slower pace, for the next 5 to 7 years. Many other countries in the world will have a much faster or much more aggressive ramp down of IC engines. And with the volumes going down, and with high-cost countries in Western Europe and US, it may become difficult commercially to continue to build IC engine vehicle components. And therefore, there will be consolidation. The challenge for us is, or the opportunity for us is, how do we ensure that consolidation happens in India? Can India become the proverbial last man standing in IC engines, component manufacturing and supply? And I think it will require a strategic approach. Perhaps it's not a question of one supplier or one company working on it, but ACMA, maybe with the help of McKinsey, can come up with a strategy on how India can become the last man standing for IC engine components and vehicles. Government of India has given the industry the biggest enabler in the PLI scheme. The architect of PLI was here. Auto industry is the biggest beneficiary. This opportunity will never come again. I think I want everybody to realize that it's not a 5-year of windfall. It is 5 years of opportunity given so that after 5 years, we are as competitive as anyone else in the world. We have the scale that is required to be competitive and an unmatched value proposition. Unfortunately, many people think, I'm going to make more money in the 5 years. That's not what the PLI scheme is for. Now, let me talk about advanced technology. Put your hands on your heart and ask yourself, what disruptive technology have we developed in India in the automotive industry? We have done very well in adopting technology. We have done very well in making expensive technology affordable. Why should we not do equally well in innovating technology? My 1-year association with space industry has convinced me that if we put our mind to it, we can be as good in technology as anyone else. When I walk around the ISRO centers, I often wondered why auto industry does not have access to the technology that the space industry in India has. ISRO has unmatched high-end expertise in composites and lightweighting at VSSC, sensors at IISU and LEOS, heat pipes and thermal management at URSC, microwave radars and collision avoidance at SAC, advanced electronics at multiple centers, and much, much more. Is there a possibility to spin off these technologies to auto? I'm well aware that auto industry cannot afford the cost of a space industry. One rocket costs about 300 crores. I don't think auto industry can make a car for 300 crores. But all the same, I think if we work jointly between the experts in the space industry and experts in auto industry, we can perhaps solve the cost puzzle. We are planning a technical workshop in Trivandrum between ISRO experts and auto R&D teams. Our IITs are doing cutting-edge R&D work, but IIT industry collaboration is not very strong. We have talked about this many times. There are innovative projects like lightweighting, structural shapes using 3D printing, disruptive proposal from IIT Madras to replace multitudes of ECUs with just a few, without losing flexibility and modularity. These projects will require a strong collaboration with the component manufacturers, with the OEMs, and in some cases, serious funding requirement that might come from the government departments. Government is quite keen to support R&D like this. So can we create a consortium of all of these people to cause disruption in technology and have our own technology in India that we will use in India and export from India? Just a little marketing pitch. On 14th and 15th of October, all the IITs are coming together for the first time ever to showcase R&D projects that are relevant to the industry. It's happening right here in IIT Delhi. I request automotive OEMs and suppliers to attend this event if you can, to get a sense of the kind of R&D that is being done at IITs, and I can tell you that you will be pleasantly surprised. Last thing I want to touch upon is the startup ecosystem. That has now become very strong in India. Amitabh just touched upon it a little bit. Again, I will draw a parallel from the space industry. You must be aware that the government of India had opened up the space sector for private enterprise just about 2 years ago. In fact, the primary role that I have as chairman of InSpace is to enable private enterprises to succeed in space while at the same time regulate their activities. The space sector now has more than 100 startups, and at least a dozen of them are at the verge of achieving technological breakthroughs. The space industry, as you know, is technologically very complex. Yet these young startups, in most cases, average age of about 27 years, are causing technical disruption. And government is hoping that the startups will become the foundation to take the $8 billion space industry to $40 billion in 8 to 10 years. Now, automotive industry also has literally hundreds of startups. The question that I ask is that are the established players working with them, partnering with them, or seeing them as competition? And I'm afraid there are many situations where they are probably seen as competition and wished away. I urge you to nurture startups within your own organization, have your own startups, or fund startups, or partner with the startups. The opportunity that we have here is absolutely limitless because they will redefine the future, as Amitabh said. So let me sum up by saying that while the automotive industry globally is facing challenges, in India, our opportunity outpaces the challenges. We have opportunities in localization, in export, in IC engines, of course in electric vehicles and hydrogen, through technology development and leveraging the very strong startup ecosystem that we now have. What is needed is conviction, followed by risk-taking mindset, taking big bets, believing in ourselves, investing in technology, leveraging startup ecosystem, and thus embark on the next phase of Indian auto industry growth. As I was flying in this morning, I saw in the paper, Honorable Finance Minister had made some statement comparing the industry to Hanuman, saying that you don't know what you can do. Somebody needs to tell you. And he said, and she asked, who can it be? It cannot be government. So here I am telling you that you are the Hanuman, and you can do amazing things if you have the conviction. So now, Sanjay, for sure, I think this is my last ACMA speech. So let me take this opportunity to say that the automotive industry is one of the most exciting and challenging places to be in. I was fortunate to have served this industry for 42 years, 28 in India and 14 in USA. I thank you, ACMA members, ACMA friends, for the love and respect that you have given me over the years. This industry has given me so much. No matter what I do, I can never repay. But I'm always available to serve this industry in any way I can. Will continue to be a well-wisher of the industry for my life and hope to remain in touch with many of you. Signing off with best wishes to you individually and to the industry collectively. God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Pavan Goenka, for your very invigorating and inspiring keynote address. Your valuable suggestions are indeed very important guiding factors for the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, President ACMA, to kindly give a token of appreciation to our esteemed guests. Can we have the mementos, please? Firstly, to Dr. Pavan Goenka. And then the next one to Mr. R. Dinesh. And to Mr. Kenichi Ayukawa. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to now invite Ms. Shraddha Suri Marva, Vice President ACMA and Chairperson and Managing Director Subros, requesting her to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I won't take too much time because I know everyone's hungry, tired, but I got to do what I have to do. So, Mr. Amitabh Kant in absentia, Dr. Goenka, Mr. R. Dinesh, Ayukawa-san, Sanjay, Vinny, all the captains of the industry sitting here, officials from the government, ACMA past presidents, my colleagues on the ACMA EC, friends from the press and media, ladies and gentlemen. As we conclude this inaugural session, it is my privilege and pleasure to make a few concluding remarks. The year gone by has definitely been challenging, especially as we struggle to piece our act together post the pandemic. The first 6 months of the last fiscal witnessed several supply chain issues and disruptions, high prices of input costs, issues of semiconductor availability, containers being disproportionately high, and leading to high logistic costs. That apart, a tectonic shift is happening in the automotive sector across the globe and here in India as well, as we embark on the e-mobility journey. Simultaneously, the sector is faced with several new regulations, including those for fuels, emission, and safety. Whilst we're still not completely out of the woods and supply chain issues continue to persist, I'm extremely proud of our industry in the way we have responded to the challenges and supported each other to overcome them. I'm grateful to our customers for guiding us well to ensure business continuity, and to my friends in the auto component fraternity for their resilience and belief in themselves. The government has played an exemplary role in supporting the industry as well, and I'm happy that today in almost all segments we are witnessing recovery and have started to invest in advanced technologies. Today's ensuing keynote by the honorable ministers who are going to come, Mr. Piyush Goyal, Mr. Gadkari, and industry luminaries including Mr. Vinod Agarwal, Mr. Ganesh Mani, McKinsey, the McKinsey presentation, and the panel discussions with top industry and government leaders shall bring to fore concrete ideas on how the component industry, despite the adversities, is going to transform itself and be future ready. I would like to thank our Ministry of Heavy Industries for their support. Later in the day, we will have an opportunity to listen to the Honorable Minister, Dr. Mahendranath Pandey, as he champions our cause and other ministries and departments to make a conducive environment for our business. Now I turn to the guests on the dais. I'll speak a little bit about Mr. Amitabh Kant, even though he had to go due to some urgent work. He's always motivated us. He's nudged us to think out of the box. His valuable direction to industry to continuously transform itself has been very, very pertinent. Our industry needs to transition itself to green to be commensurate with the carbon neutrality goal of the government and of the country. His new role as Sherpa G20, of course, we look forward to his support in helping us in deepening our exports across the globe. He spoke about 5 things, which I'll quickly mention: transformation of India in a single generation, rapid urbanization, electric revolution, and India being the champion of the 2- and 3-wheeler space. Dr. Goenka, you're a friend and a guide to ACMA and the auto component industry. You very rightly said 2 generations. I remember 2004-05 very, very vividly when I sat in that office. Thank you very much. Your passion and commitment for a deeply localized automotive value chain has always motivated us. You've always talked about positive paranoia. I'm hopeful that today's event will be a wake-up call for all those who have not yet got their act together for the future. E-mobility is no longer a possibility, it's a reality, and it's here to stay. You spoke about localization, exports, ICE, advanced technology, and startup, and I think that resonates with most of us sitting here. Ayukawa-san, heartiest congratulations to you for successfully completing your term as president of SIAM. Congratulations also for MSIL having successfully completed 40 years in India under your leadership, and for announcing the new production facilities in Kharkhoda in Haryana and the lithium-ion battery plant in Hansalpur in Gujarat. Ayukawa-san, you have always been in the forefront of extending support to the supplier community, and now as you relocate to the headquarters of Suzuki in Hamamatsu, we look forward for greater support from you. Thank you once again for your presence here today. Ayukawa-san, you spoke about increased localization, quality, investment in new and future technology, investment in R&D, and reinvesting money back in the core business. Mr. R. Dinesh, thank you for joining us today. We are very thankful to CII for involving ACMA in its consultative processes. We congratulate CII for this year's theme, Beyond India at 75, Competitiveness, Growth, Sustainability, and Internationalization, as we celebrate India's 75th year of independence. ACMA is committed to support CII as it redirects itself to meet the aspirations of our government and people for an economically and technologically advanced country. Thank you very much. ACMA partnerships with the government have been intimate, and we are thankful to all the ministries, departments, and agencies at the center and state for the cooperation. I particularly thank the Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and Niti Aayog for their support. We are indeed very, very grateful to our sponsors who have supported this conference. This event would not have been possible without your generous contributions. A special thanks to our friends in the media who've always been given a voice to the auto component industry and supported us. Last but not the least, I have to thank our president, Sanjay Kapoor, who has led this tectonic shift in the mobility space from the front, both as his role as ACMA president as well as chair of Sona Comstar. Thank you, Sanjay. Sanjay spoke about three things. He said the 7.5% out of the 100, which we are all supposed to listen to. ESG, cybersecurity, and electrification. I'm just reiterating it so that everybody remembers that, because Sanjay has a habit of taking a test. He might question you later. I would also like to thank Vinny. Thank you very much. You really keep it together for us, so thank you. Thank you for that. I would like to compliment the ACMA Secretariat. Some of them are here, some are there, who have worked tirelessly to put this event together. Once again, thank you all, and I wish you a fruitful day ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marva, for your extremely warm vote of thanks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. Thank you, esteemed dignitaries, for your very kind presence and participation. I'd like to now invite everybody for lunch. Please do not forget to connect with us on our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My request everybody to kindly join us back at 2:30 p.m. in this hall for our theme session.